Hey everyone, we'll go ahead and let people join and then we'll get started in a few minutes. I see a couple people from the community are on and then a few board members are still going to be joining as well. So we'll see you all in a few minutes. Well, we're right about 6:30 and we'll let a few more people join here in a couple of minutes. First of all, thank you board members and staff for joining us tonight and for getting all this set up. Sarah, a special shout out to you for always setting these virtual meetings up for us. So thank you so much. Tonight, we're going to have some community engagement around the budget. Before we got into the budget, I did want to address this one thing. I know just with a lot happening nationally and in the state, there's a lot of questions around funding. What do executive orders do and so forth? And just to quickly address that question, I'm actually going to drop into the chat the guidance that we as a district are following. So I know, especially through a budget season, many people wonder, okay, if funding changes, like, does that change the budget? What happens? When does all of that happen? We're going according to the Attorney General's guidance, and it's a multi-state guidance. I just dropped that in there. So if you have any questions around that, absolutely can direct them to administration or to myself. And then also you can reach out to the Attorney General's office. But I know I had a lot of questions even in the past day of like, with different changes in the state and also federally, do we have to change our budget? How does that affect the vote? The short answer is it doesn't affect anything at the moment. There's no actual change in funding streams at all at the moment. And nothing has changed in terms of our programming either. So just wanted to toss that one out there just for everyone's awareness. In addition to that, what I just want to share with everyone here this evening, I did turn on the question and answer. And just as a reminder, if you could please put the questions in there and have them not be anonymous, we'll entertain any questions in there from individuals in the community. And really tonight and next Thursday are 2 evenings to ask questions about the budget, ask questions about particular spots of the budget so voters can be informed about what they're voting upon. And also feel free to ask questions around implementation or toss ideas out around implementation too, as that's the next piece that we're really working into. But I just want to say thank you to all the members of the community who are here this evening. If you do have a question, what we would just ask is that you either raise your hand and then we'll be able to pull you into the main section of the meeting here, or you also can go ahead and throw questions into the Q&A as well. Marlon or Laura, as board officers, anything else you want to add before we kick it off?
No, I think you did a good job. Welcome, everyone.
I've decided to answer questions from the community, so appreciate
it.
So thank you both so much. I realized I was going to say you're both muted, but I realized my volume was completely off. So I apologize before that if someone was trying to get my attention and I did not hear you. So I sincerely apologize. So this evening, if anyone has questions, feel free to go ahead, throw your hand up there, and then we'll bring you into the main section to answer any questions that you might have.
Robert, not seeing any questions. I'm wondering maybe you could give just a little bit of a timeline of when the vote's going to happen, and if anybody's on here who hasn't voted before, what they could expect to see on a ballot.
Sure. So one of the things for the ballot this year, you might have seen the town clerk sent out a little postcard in the mail where you could get an absentee ballot. That's one way. Another way is you actually, as of today, can go to the town clerk's office and vote in person there at any point in time between now and the budget vote on April 8th. The third way is showing up on April 8th. You can come to the polls. So whether you're in the Junction, Westford, or in the town, you can go to your specific polling location, and the polls are open from 7 to 7. I'm going to have Marlon check me on all this because he's the expert in this area too. But you'll be able to go, and then on that ballot, depending on which community you live in, you'll either see different board officers that you can vote upon, or you also are going to have the opportunity to vote on both the EWSD budget as well as the CTE budget. And those will be the two articles on there that you're able to vote upon. And on the actual budget vote, it just gives the number. So it's just voting upon the number, and you'll see many board members at the polls at each of the locations. And feel free to ask us any questions as you enter into the polls those days. We're happy to answer them during that time. Marlon, I'm going to let you check me on anything that I might have missed that might help voters.
No, I think you pretty much all the highlights there. Yeah, polls will be open 7 to 7. On the ballot will be not just the budget for the district as a whole, but also be CT will be on there as well. There'll also be some other ballot, looking for the word here, other pieces of the ballot that you'll be voting on. I think there's 6 on there that you'll be voting upon. Folks in the town will be voting on town reps. There's 2 seats open there. City folks will be voting for one person there, for the board, but there'll be 3 folks on the ballot there, just so everybody knows. And then Westford community members, you guys are on a 2-year cycle, and then the 3rd year is there's no vote for you guys. So this year there'll be no person on your ballot for voting for the board. It'll be next year. Will be the next time to see that.
And I see a few more people joined since the beginning of the call. Again, feel free to drop any questions into the Q&A, or also feel free just to raise your hand, and we're happy to answer any questions. And if there's no in particular questions, I might just turn it back over to Beth for a couple of minutes just to talk about just in general any implementation or just a couple of highlights from our meeting last Tuesday.
Yeah, so we have lots in the transition planning piece of it. We're excited to do some consolidation of our K2 schools. So we'll have a K2 school in the Junction and 1 in the town. We'll have a 3, 4, 5 in the Junction and 1 in the town. So we're aligning across the district, and 2 middle schools, which will really help our teachers with collaboration as well as streamlining our curriculum across all the schools. We're really excited about all of that. We have, we're doing a lot of work around for our mental health and the needs there. We know from the survey that we put out, that the board put out, that we had a lot of concerns for mental health, and they wanted to see that in the budget. We certainly have done that by even decreasing the money in our budget by adding some really great opportunities for our students. Erin, do you want to talk about ARC and the expansion of that?
Sure. So Dylan and I, along with some others, did a walkthrough at Summit today to look at the transition for the ARC program in order to expand the 912 ARC into the 58 Founders location. And that went well. We also looked at pre-K, and we talked about the availability of after-school programming in the building, along with the possibility of a location for a senior space to be able to engage activities for seniors. So that happened today. And we continue to have a lot of applicants for our high school ARC assistant director position, as well as teaching positions. We're really feeling actually better than when we opened the 3rd through 8th grade program related to hiring. We're just in a better place around the number of available professionals and support staff able to apply for the position. So that is all very positive. I certainly think that it is important to note that we continue to hear about the emotional impact on the repurposing of Summit Street and school consolidation that we've gone through, and continue to talk to people about that and hear from people, some people who are feeling really upset, some people who are feeling excited, and want to continue to make ourselves available for listening to concerns. That comes up for me because we did a walkthrough today at Summit. It was after school, but certainly heard from some folks during that experience, and just want to lift up the difficulty that is as part of this, because that voice is important too. But we are continuing to make progress on ARC. And then we did actually did a media interview yesterday around the mental health, the availability of therapy from private providers and non-EWSD employees during the school day, and had just expressed, if there's anyone who's watching this piece that wants to let me know, I'm looking for this, I'm looking for that, and had some outreach today, and excited to celebrate Spectrum Youth Family Services as an incredible partner in a lot of ways already, and we'll continue to work with them on that. We've also done some work, and I think Dylan is here too, around our therapeutic classrooms and conversations about IEP teams that should have those conversations and make those decisions together as a team with families and input, and thinking about that as part of our continuum. And we continue to look at staffing assignments within all of the context of all of these changes. Dylan, is there anything else you wanted to add? We looked at the pre-K classrooms today at Summit. Anything else you wanted to say?
No, I think you've hit on a lot of the detail. I just, overall, I think the transition work to and the preparation that needs to happen is well underway. And it's a lot of work, but people are going into it well intentioned and really working hard to make sure that this is as seamless as possible.
Yes, we had a long time, 4 hours, with our principals today, and we're able to dive into each of the projects that we have, each of the strategies, and develop more tasks for us. But that was part of it. What else do we have to do? Which is a lot. And our principals were, as Erin said and talked about the challenges, I have to say that when we are together, we discuss the challenges and talk about how hard it is. And then also, as well as the excitement of our district moving forward together and doing some grade level work and alignment. And our principals are really leaning into being one district and working together for all students, not just their own in their building, which is very exciting.
Thanks so much, Beth. And I know there's a question in the Q&A. And again, reminder, if you just joined in the past couple of minutes, just go ahead and raise your hand if you have questions around the budget. And also feel free to drop them in the Q&A. So the question in the Q&A at this point is, what happens if the budget fails? Between the people upset about the changes, the people who don't like any increase in taxes, and other parties as well, what will happen? Will Summit Street remain changed even if the budget fails? Would the changes to Summit Street be reconsidered? So I think it's good to maybe walk back to the last year and kind of see what the precedent is, and then what other districts do as well. And then other board members can chime in as well. So last year we had in our first budget vote about 5,000 voters, a little over 3,000 voted against, and 2,000 voted for. So our budget failed last year. What happens when there's a failed budget is the board has to get back together, which we got back together on the Thursday following the budget vote. So the vote was Tuesday. We got back together Thursday. And then the following week met another 3 times on that Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday again. And part of what we had to do as a board is redecide what is the overall budget amount. And last year it was really clear that the double-digit tax increase was not something that our community could absorb due to the tax changes. And 1 in 3 schools across the state also experienced the same thing. Across the state, in terms of when budgets have failed, some schools might release the same roughly budgeted amount and try to go for it again. Out of all those schools, the 1 in 3 last year, all of them did decrease their budget. There was 1 school in the history of Vermont that increased their budget, and that was due to a difference in opinion of, and Beth, I can let you speak to that because that was back in another time, but I can let you speak to that one in a second. So looking at the polling that we did last year, we did an exit poll. The exit poll, we had 60% of our voters say that they voted no. So of the people, about 3,300 people that voted no, we had roughly 60% of them that said that they voted no due to the increase in tax rate. So come to this year, we got into December and we were waiting to hear from the tax commissioner and the December 1 letter, as well as what the CLA impact would be on our community. And what we found out is that our CLA was extremely low. We are one of the 3 lowest communities in the state. And as a result, that directly drives up our tax rate. So we could spend $0 more and still our communities face a 1% tax rate increase, a 7% tax rate increase, and a 9% tax rate increase. If we had added more to that, then it just for every about $500,000, it adds about 0.75 to that tax rate. So that's the individual tax bill. So we took all of that into account. The board then voted on a level budget, and that was the guidance that we gave to administration. So we said that we need you to come back with a level budget. Because of almost $1 million loss in revenue from the state for special ed, because of also about a $1.8 million increase in health insurance costs that are subjected upon us by the state that we have no control over. And then in terms of salary increases and in terms of disinflationary costs, everything from electric to HVAC to any of the operational things in the district or the supplies that we receive as a district, all of that amounted to roughly $6 million that we then had to reduce our overall spending by in order to maintain a level spending budget. So from there, that is what administration went and looked. They turned over every stone, found here's different ways that we can reduce. And that has been the plan that has been produced and which the board ultimately voted upon and did make changes to over the course of time. And at the end of the day, when you're removing $6 million, which was almost 6 to 8% of our overall budget, the need came in for a reduction or consolidation of schools. And if this had been another year where there wasn't the urgency between December and April to have to find $6 million to reduce, things could have been done in a different way. Things could have been managed in a different way. And in terms of, impact studies and different items that could have been brought up, this is actually rolling back to last year. One thing that we did ask administration to bring forward to us, we asked them to bring forward 2 options of what would it look like to close a school, whether it be Westford or whether it be the Junction, because that was what the community at that point was asking for. They were really expressing that the tax rate was too high. And what does it look like? What is the cost savings to actually close a school? So last year, I think it was April 11th, from that meeting, we had a board meeting where administration presented back to us what the cost savings would be for multiple different areas, including reduction of a building and consolidation of a building in our district, and to see what the impact of that would be. So that was not kept last year because there was $4.5 million in reductions that we were able to find at that point. But this year we had to find $6 million on top of that. So moving forward into this year, if the budget were to be voted no upon, right now, as the board has said it, the budget has been level budgeted to not increase the tax rate to a double digit. And I believe that moving forward as a board, that we wouldn't go to add more to the budget to have a higher tax rate, because at least from our voters last year and from the budget survey that we had this year, it indicated that those that don't have students in the district really expressed the need for reductions across our district in multiple different areas, thus reducing the overall tax rate. And if you look at the numbers, about 75% of our voters do not have children in the district. This is representing retirees or families that live in the district that don't have kids in the district, that have clearly expressed last year and both this year that that increase in tax rate is no longer affordable for them. So to answer the question of what happens if the budget fails, that I kind of described what the process looks like, but then the board would have to have an emergency meeting and talk through how much do we reduce the budget by, or do we try to produce the same budget and put it back forward to the community? But a failed budget would indicate to the board that the tax rate is too high, given the numbers, given the data that I just shared with you, and that we would have to reduce further. And I know that some people have said, well, that's just Robert making a threat, saying like, oh, well, if you vote no, this, I just want to be really clear. We are not, and I want to make this crystal clear, especially for staff and community members, the board does not tell anyone how to vote. We did the work to make sure that we put forward a budget that we believe will pass, that we believe respects both the needs of the education system as well as the needs of our community members. And at the end of the day, if a budget fails, we as a board have to take into account what that message is being sent to the board so that we can react to it. But also as a board, we want to be really honest that that is the step that we would have to take. So I'll let anyone else chime in there if you want to as well.
Thanks, Robert. I'll just chime in. Thanks for giving that background information. But again, to be really clear, like a failed budget is going to tell the board that we have to make more reductions, and we're not going to produce a second budget that is going to bring stuff in that has already been taken out. It would have to continue to be more reductions. We wouldn't be adding anything back in.
I want to add one more thing to that too. For community members that really were not paying deep attention to last year's budget and kind of what came out about it, there's definitely a piece around community that really want to make sure that we protected teachers, we protected forward-facing positions to students. That was a big push from the community, and that required us to keep a budget at a certain level. When the budget failed, that triggers things that the district has to do, is obligated by law with CBA that they have with teachers and with support staff, and cause them to have to do reduction in force notices for a lot of staff. Folks on the outside that didn't know the process thought, oh, this is like the district is trying to do something to try, like, for fearmonger and try to push, a narrative to the community. And it's not the case. That is what we have to do. That is required. But the long story of that there was because we have to either offer contracts to staff or we have to do a RIF notice. That's what we're doing. When we don't have a budget that's passed, we have no budget to give them. We can't give them everybody, job offers. So when that happened, we lost staff. That was a big piece that people were pushing before in the first budget. And I think a piece that a lot of people didn't realize what happened was that we ended up losing staff. People were, had to look for other jobs. People were scared about waiting to see what was going to happen in our district. And again, with how the landscape was across the state last year, everybody in every district was feeling the same thing. There was no guarantees anywhere. So I think, again, I understand there's a lot of motion around this budget. There's a lot of motion around last year's budget too. But I think, again, when folks are thinking that a no vote is just something as simple, oh, we'll just go back and rework it, there are consequences to that. It affects people's lives. And again, I think one thing we all agree upon is that we have an amazing staff in this district. We care about this staff. And I think that, again, if you're going to vote no, you have to understand that you are going to probably hurt staff. Whether that's intentional or not, it's going to happen. It happened last year. We watched it. We dealt with it. The district dealt with it. The board dealt with it. It is not something that was fun to go through. I don't want to go through it again. But again, I think that for the community, they have to understand that that's what a no vote will also do. There is damage behind the scenes that a lot of people don't see that we have to deal with. And I think it's not a fun thing. So that's just another piece to put on the table there for folks to understand.
And we have another question in the chat as well. Is there a spreadsheet or document that goes with the list of transition tasks that provides transparency regarding projected costs? As a voter, I'd like and appreciate more detail. The presentation included very little cost information. So we have a couple of different items. And Beth, I don't we don't necessarily need to like share them on screen right now, but maybe we can drop some of those into chat. So Helen, there's the presentation from February 11th that gives at least the transitional steps and what the cost savings are. And then there's the presentation from January 28th that has kind of the big lump sums for what each large transition would cover. And then there's a breakdown on the budget webpage as well. And Marlon's dropping some stuff in there as well. If you want to email me as well, I can connect with you and send you some more specific items that would be helpful.
Robert, I could also drop in the presentation we had from Tuesday night that actually shows some timelines that are happening right now that the district shared with everybody around what's happening at Westford with EMS and also with the Summit Hiawatha Fleming piece too. There are some pieces there I think that also give people a good idea of what the timelines are right now and how things are progressing. So I can also put those in there too as well. So.
And Marlon, those did not have numbers and cost savings in them. We spoke to them. We spoke to the numbers and the cost savings, but I think that Helen would like to see that transparency, which is also, there's also a slide deck from February 18th that shows some of those numbers. And then when you go to the website page, the budget page, there is a breakdown, like an Excel looking like sheet that does give budget numbers. It's very different than looking at like a town budget. It doesn't give how many pencils we buy and all of that. It's under supplies. It's very, because we don't need to report that. It would be ridiculous to report all that, but it does report in chunks of what we spend money on and the revenues that come in as well.
The other thing too, to speak to the presentation from this past Tuesday night, and for anyone who just joined, when you go into that presentation, there's a specific link for Summit Street and a specific link for Westford. So in the physical presentation, you won't see all the transition items, but if you click on those links, it opens up a folder in another document that allows you to see transition plans, communications, and different opportunities for families to be involved in different areas as well. So
the last 3 links I just put in the chat there is the presentation from Tuesday night along with those 2 documents. So you go backwards, it'll be the third one back will be the presentation and the next 2 will be the documents that were shared in there. The other links before that are presentations for those meetings that Beth just mentioned. So
I think on February, Sarah's letting me know that on February 4th, there was the breakdown as well. To look at that. So
I can share that with the community right now too. I'll put that in there. And actually, I do see the line item actions. I can take those and I'll share those as well. I can also share the school by school comparison as well.
That's great.
I'll put all those in the chat right now for everybody. So
thank you, Marlon.
No problem.
And as a reminder, you can always go to the budget page to find the links Marlon's dropping. They're all there too.
Very well organized by date.
For anyone who just joined as well, feel free to either raise your hand if you have questions, or feel free to also go ahead and drop a question in the Q&A slot as well. And then for those of you just joining the conversation too, there's a couple of links that Marlon has shared in there. And if you're not seeing all of them, there's quite a number of them and you want to get some of them and you just joined, we can redrop them in there as well. Linda, go ahead. Hi, Linda. Thanks for joining us.
Hello, can you hear me?
There we go. We got you now. Yep.
Okay,
Hey.
sorry about that.
No worries.
Just had a question for Dylan and Aaron. They said that they took a little tour of Summit School today. And I wondered, when you looked at the space where the preschool is now, are you considering having that be the space, or is it still open to making a decision on, I guess?
Yeah, that's a good question, Linda. We looked at the option of keeping it, keeping one of the classrooms where it is and then adding a classroom next to it. But we are trying to get a little bit larger classrooms. That's one factor we're looking at. And we're also looking at the fact that we'll be co-locating the ARC program there. So our tentative plans right now that we're 95% sure on, I think, after today's meeting, is that preschool will be upstairs. Those classrooms are well over 750 square feet, gives us a lot of space for them, and we'll have them co-located next to each other, accessible to bathrooms, and also we'll have our preschool families, puppies start to enter. Well, we have to look at if we'll enter from the front or the back of the building, but the classrooms will work much better, I think, there with the space that we have. It'll also allow us to increase our license up slightly. Right now, the classroom is big enough to license up to 12, but moving up to a larger classroom will allow us to expand our license up to 15 should we need that space.
I'm excited that there's going to be another classroom, because I was under the impression along the way that it was just going to be the one that's in Hiawatha right now. So I'm excited that there is going to be another classroom for the teachers as well as for the students and the staff that will be working there. So that's great. I'm glad there will be 2 classes.
Yeah, we're excited about it. I think there's some silver linings to all this, despite the change being hard for a lot of folks. They're excited about being co-located and having sort of a community there. And the classrooms we're looking at right now have actually like an accordion door that we can open up and even open the space between the 2 classrooms, which could add for some pretty cool things too.
I just had one last question about the preschool. I know that Hiawatha is arranging for students and parents of Summit to visit the Hiawatha school, and I think that's wonderful. I didn't know, is there going to be an opportunity for these little preschoolers to visit the new location, or is it too soon to ask that?
I don't think it's too soon to ask it. We haven't put anything on the calendar, but I think it's a great idea, and I think we can talk about how to make that work. We won't necessarily have the classrooms set up, but I think we could find a time. I'd be dedicated to find a time to welcome and show the families where the classrooms will be. And I can work with our leaders on whether it's best to do that after school or during the school day, but I think that's a good idea.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Linda. And Jen, I'll have you join us, and then feel free to ask any questions. I think you might just have to unmute, and then we'll be able to hear you there. Oh, there you go.
Perfect.
Hey, thanks so much, Jen.
Thank you, everybody, for being here and being available to the communities to ask the questions. I had a question kind of specific to the Westford middle schoolers moving. Is there going to continue to be a math science and then a humanities, like 2 teachers for the 5th graders, or will that be going down to 1 teacher?
That's a great question, and I don't know. I do not have the plan for that yet. I'm sure that Marcy has been thinking about that. Our 5th grade in other buildings are self-contained, or they share. We have some self-contained, just 5th grade, and we have some that are teamed. So that's a great question, and that's something I'm sure Marcy is looking at and thinking about. But when we're licensed K through 6, you can be a self-contained teacher and teach all of those subjects. So
okay, the second part of that question, if it does turn out that there are still 2 teachers, does it still make sense to move the 6th graders and to have 2 teachers for half the kids, which increases the per pupil spending? Or does it make more sense to, if there are teachers there and there's space there, to leave the 6th grade where it is?
There are numbers right now to have 1 5th grade teacher. Doesn't really allow us to have 2, but something could be done in teaming. That's why I don't want to really answer the question whether it's going to be self-contained, because they could partner with a 4th grade teacher and then do something like humanities and a math science. That's how I taught when I taught 5th grade. So I'm not sure if that's what they'll choose to do or not, but there won't be 2 teachers for 5th grade.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Hey, Robert, can I just add one little small thing too? Because I know this has been floating around a couple of times around the per pupil spending. So I know there was a meeting that one was on the board, and I can't remember who asked about the school breakdown. We brought that to a meeting. I think it was February 4th. when the state looks at per pupil spending, it is by district. It is not by school. So I know that there's been some concern with folks in Westford about per pupil spending for that building. That was, again, this request by the board. It was not something that the state looks at. It's not something that the state makes decisions upon. They don't have the ability to look at that low level of specificity for districts. They look at the entire district as a whole when we're doing our budget spending. So I just want to, again, reassure Westford, families out there that when we look at per pupil spending, it's not for the building in Westford, it is for the entire district.
The other thing too, a question came up in here. Emma just doesn't have access to the link specifically for the transition plan from Hiawatha, Summit, and Fleming. So it looks like it's a permissions issue. Go ahead, Erin.
I was just going to respond to that to say that those are live working documents that may not be available for access to the public. And so I wonder if what we need to do is make sure that there's a PDF of what we shared with the community during that presentation that's linked there. So we can go do that and make that a live link to what was presented at the board. But my guess is that those are sort of live working documents that are not necessarily community facing, but we could check with principals. So just trying to kind of resolve that access issue based on what the principals said the other night.
Sure. And what I can even, Emma, what I can do after this meeting is I can PDF it and just send over the Hiawatha Summing one that I have currently, and I can get access to that and send it. And I guess the question is, and I know you're not in the main room here, but if you have other questions about the transition plan, I know you joined a couple minutes late here. We're happy to take those questions tonight as well.
The presentation that the principals did too is also Media Factory recorded that. So it would be a great segment to watch and listen to the principals about the transition. They spoke in quite detail and the activities and things that they're planning with parents and students.
And for those of us who weren't there Tuesday night as well, our local representatives were on as well to give a statewide update and talk about some of the state level things going on that can impact budgets. So that'll be up there as well. Thank you, Sarah. I'm happy to take other questions as well. I know we have a informational meeting coming up here in April, but also next Thursday night, we have another community engagement night too for anyone that has questions. And again, always feel free to email us as well. But happy to take any more questions here if you have any. And again, just kind of circling back to the beginning of the meeting, because I know actually a few individuals who joined a little bit late here actually had asked this question earlier today. In case anyone's wondering about how federal funding is going to impact this year's budget, there is a joint memo from multiple states, the Attorney General's office, that talks about programming, funding, and kind of a Q&A around executive orders and how that impacts schools. But the long and short of it is at this point in time, no funding streams are impacting our schools at this point, both from the federal and state level. Nothing has changed. Nothing's impacting this current budget. And if you want to read deeper into legalese, that's the legalese that our district's following as well. There's no other questions. I will give a few minutes back to our staff because I know they've had long days, and I'll give time back to them. Thank you all for being on this evening. Board members, thank you for being on as well. I'll give one more call if anyone wants to raise your hand or shoot out a question to the Q&A. Happy to take it. Yeah, go ahead, Emma. We'll move you over in here.
Hi, everyone.
Hi, Emma. Hey, thanks for joining us.
Hey, I'll be really quick. I know you're just about to log
No,
off.
no,
Sorry,
no.
I'm trying to juggle.
We're here till 7:30. It's just
No,
there was
that's
no
okay. That's okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
Thanks so much for the link issue. I appreciate that. And I just wanted to very quickly, not really a question, but wanted to give a quick shout out because I got an email from Principal Roy at Fleming on, I want to say Monday, with some really helpful details about just Fleming in general. I've never actually been in that building. And I just wanted to basically say, and I'm sorry if this was covered, I came in a few minutes late. And I know I did listen to the board meeting on Tuesday, and all the principals had really great presentations, so I was appreciative of that. Some of those points are super helpful for parents to hear, and I know not everybody can make those meetings or this meeting, but I've been really happy to share that information with other parents because there's been so much, like I've mentioned this in emails to you all, like so many rumors and things circulating. And so it was awesome to hear from the principal directly. And so many people are like, what? This space is awesome. It was designed as a high school originally. Like it's kind of surprising to a lot of people, myself included. And so I was hoping that as we kind of close out this community engagement, the next couple sessions and the next board meetings and kind of lead up to this budget, that some of those like really great points could be summarized in like a splashy way for the community so that they could really understand some of the positives, because it's been really focused on a lot of the just kind of fear and anxiety. And just as a parent of a current second grader at Summit, it was really awesome to be able to tell my daughter, like, oh, these little things that Principal Roy passed on, and then have her listen actually to the board meeting in that little section where her current principal is talking and stuff. So I just wanted to, hop on really quick and say if there's anything, that you could all do to kind of spread some of that good news, which I know you're already doing a little bit of, but just maybe in like a punchier, splashy way so that people really get drawn to those, like just those links directly to that they can, review some of that stuff. I am personally trying to spread it as well. So just want to say that.
Thank you, Emma. And it is in our communication plan to drop those pieces here and there, and as well as the principals. And they have a timeline of things where they will mail out or send out as things get like solidified, right? So it's still in the planning stages and things, but you're right. I think we were able to stop some of the rumors the other night when, no children will be in a windowless classroom at Fleming. We stopped that one. So there's some other things too, that I don't even know that's out there as rumors. So it's helpful to know those so we can communicate those things. But thanks, Emma.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you all.
Thank you so much, Emma. I just want to take one quick look at the Q&A to see if there's anything dropped in there. So I'll give one final call again, because I do want to make sure that we honor the community members that are still here. And if there's any lingering questions, and also feel free to email us as well. All right, not seeing any others. Thank you all for being here. Thank you all staff members for being here as well, and board members. I hope you all have a wonderful evening. It is still slightly light outside. Go out for a walk, enjoy this weather. I'm not going to say it because I'll get in trouble, but I feel like it's fall spring. So like just blame Marlin if it does.
I'm bringing you snow tomorrow, so just so you know. So just you can blame me tomorrow.
Marlin.
So
Marlin, are we getting another snowstorm?
Like an inch. So nothing exciting.
Okay.
Thank you all.
It will snow tomorrow, so I apologize for that. So
okay. Thanks, Marlin.
No problem.
Thank you all for your time this evening. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank
Board
you.
members, remember just to take a look about the signs and make sure that you just let me know on those, and we'll get them out and get them up. Thank you all for being here.
Have a good one. Jackie, you're up the hook. You can get off. We're done.
All right, I think we're good to go. Thank you, Peter. Have a great night.
You too, Robert. That was a good one.
Hey,
Thanks so much.
was. Thank you all so much for everything. So I appreciate it as always.
All
Have a
right.
great night.
Yep. Talk soon.
Yep. Bye.